There is a sacred truth that whispers through the chaos of our modern world, a truth that only a select few are attuned to hear. You may have felt it in the quiet moments after a storm of conflict, a sense of a deeper game being played, a test you didn't know you were taking. People will come into your energy field, not with swords and shields, but with carefully chosen words, designed not to conquer you, but to witness your collapse. They will hurl insults like stones, cast shadows of doubt with their ignorance, and poke at your deepest wounds with the sharp stick of provocation. Their goal is not victory over you, but to watch you achieve victory over yourself, to see you crumble by the sheer force of your own reaction. This is a divine trial, a test of your frequency, and the vast majority of souls fail spectacularly. They flinch. They defend their fragile egos. They desperately explain themselves, seeking validation from those who offer none. In that very instant, they are pulled down into an emotional vortex, a swirling quicksand of lower vibrations, where their true power dissolves not with a thunderous bang, but with a silent, almost imperceptible flicker. This message is a key, a frequency of awakening for those who are ready to transcend this game. If these words resonate with the core of your being, know that you have found your tribe. Acknowledge this alignment by liking this video, subscribing to this divine frequency, and share in the comments how you've experienced these sacred tests, perhaps by simply writing, "I am not alone." The ancient sage Machiavelli once inscribed a profound universal law stating, "Men in general judge more by the sense of sight than by the sense of touch, because everyone can see but few can test by feeling." This is not merely a political observation, it is a deep spiritual teaching about the nature of perception itself. The masses operate on the surface level of reality, the illusionary world perceived by the physical eyes. They judge the ripples on the water, unaware of the powerful currents moving in the depths. But the awakened soul, the one who has mastered their own energy, learns to perceive with the soul, to test by feeling. They understand that true power, true reality, is not in the seen, but in the unseen vibrations that orchestrate all of existence. The world will constantly present you with these superficial tests, these illusions designed to trigger a reaction. They will insult you, ignore you, tempt you, and provoke you, all in an attempt to gauge your energetic signature. It is a cosmic litmus test, not to defeat you, but to force you to reveal your level of mastery, to watch, with great interest, as you defeat yourself by reacting. And most do. They flinch at the slightest energetic disturbance. They defend the phantom of their persona. They exhaust their life force, explaining their truth to those who are deaf to it. This immediate, reflexive engagement pulls them into an emotional quagmire, a dense, low vibrational state where their divine power dies. It vanishes, not with a roar, but with a quiet blink, lost in the murky waters of emotional chaos. The true spiritual sovereign, the Machiavellian master of the soul, knew this cosmic law intimately. He understood that wasting divine energy on reacting to the mundane provocations of the unawakened was the ultimate folly. He held a profound truth. When you act as if nothing affects your inner state, when you carry the frequency of unshakable peace, you become energetically untouchable. You are a smooth, polished stone, against which the chaotic waves of others' emotions crash and dissipate, having no effect on your core. This is not about becoming a cold, unfeeling automaton. To feel nothing is to be disconnected from the human experience, and that is not our path. But to show nothing, to choose not to broadcast your inner world for external consumption, that is divine strategy. That is the highest form of power. It is not about brute force or dominance over others. It is about the ultimate act of self-mastery, restraint. It is the ability to stand as the calm, unwavering eye of the hurricane while the world around you spins in a frenzy, desperately trying to pull you into its vortex. You must understand this critical distinction. True power is the ability to remain perfectly still while the universe itself tries to tear you apart. This is the secret held by the masters. The nonchalant man, the soul, who has integrated this wisdom, is playing an entirely different game, a longer, infinite game. He is a master of energetic absorption. He takes in the immense pressure of the world, the criticism, the chaos, the emotional turmoil, and gives absolutely nothing back. He is a black hole for negativity, transmuting it within his being without projecting it back into the world. He graciously allows others to exhaust their precious life force energy, watching them flail and scream as they try to provoke a ghost, a phantom they cannot touch. And while they burn themselves out in a blaze of reactive fury, he simply waits. He observes, he calculates, detached from the outcome, his stillness a deadly weapon of precision. This is not emotional numbness. It is the pinnacle of psychological warfare. You are not on this plane of existence to be liked. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to remain unreadable, a sacred enigma. You are here to be unshaken, a mountain in the midst of a perpetual earthquake. And in this state, you are ultimately and eternally undefeated. They will never know what truly moves you, what resonates with your soul. And because they can never decipher your inner blueprint, they will never, ever know how to stop you. This is the great trap of reaction, a spiritual snare that has ensnared humanity for eons. In this modern era, true power is no longer seized through brute, physical force. In today's world, power is purely psychological. It is a subtle, silent energy. It operates in the unseen realms, in the delicate dance of subtle manipulation and emotional warfare. And the first and most inviolable rule of this divine warfare is this: he who reacts loses control. He who loses control loses. Look around you. Most people walk through their lives as puppets, their strings pulled by everything external. They are a symphony of automatic reactions to insults, to the opinions of strangers, to the sting of disrespect, to the pain of rejection. Their responses are programmed, automatic, and utterly predictable. You label them as weak, and they immediately become defensive, their energy flaring up to protect a fragile identity. You choose to ignore them, and they desperately beg for your attention, their inner void screaming to be filled. You challenge their beliefs, and they bleed emotion in every word, every gesture, every frantic defense. What these souls do not realize, what they cannot yet perceive, is that every single one of their reactions is a leash, and the person or circumstance pulling that leash owns them in that moment. The great Florentine philosopher, Machiavelli, warned of this very dynamic centuries ago. In his seminal work, The Prince, he wrote that a true ruler must never allow himself to be governed by the volatile energies of love, hatred, or fear. He understood that emotion is chaos. Emotion is a raging storm, and if your enemies, your rivals, or even the random currents of the world can trigger your inner storm, they control your next move before you even make it. They play you like a fiddle, knowing exactly which strings to pluck to produce a predictable melody of anger, despair, or pride. This is why the nonchalant man, the one who appears untouched by the tempest, the one who is unbothered, unreadable, and utterly serene, terrifies people to their very core. They have no data to compute. They don't know what gets to him. They are left in a state of profound uncertainty, unable to discern if their attacks have landed, if they've won or lost. He gives them absolutely nothing to work with. He becomes the psychological equivalent of a ghost, a presence that is felt but can never be grasped. Understand this. Nonchalance is not about a lack of caring. It is about a profound refusal to hand others the weapon of your own reaction. It is not a passive state. It is power held in reserve, coiled tightly behind locked doors, ready to be deployed with surgical precision. Now, look around at the world. Most people live in energetic cages they have built themselves, bar by bar, with each emotional reaction. A stranger mocks them online, and they snap, their entire day consumed by the opinion of a faceless avatar. A colleague questions their worth, and they collapse into a vortex of anxiety and self-doubt. They are not sovereign beings. They are ruled by the world around them. They do not lead their emotions. Their emotions lead them, dragging them through endless cycles of suffering and powerlessness. Nonchalance flips this entire dynamic on its head. It is the sacred discipline of stillness. It is the divine power to stare into the face of insult, betrayal, or chaos, and to not blink. Not because it doesn't affect you on some level, but because you consciously choose not to give it life, not to feed it with the potent energy of your reaction. He breaks without spectacle, and that's what makes him untouchable. To develop this true nonchalance, you must first stop being a slave to your emotions. Your anger, your jealousy, your pride, those are signals, not instructions. Weak men obey their emotions. Strong men interrogate them. Ruthless men ignore them until it's time to act, and by then, it's too late for their enemies. If you wish to train this divine muscle, then begin to practice disengagement. When someone insults you, do not respond. Let it hang in the air. Let them squirm in the silence you've created. When you are accused unfairly, stay still. Your defense is your silence, and that silence is more powerful than any argument you could ever articulate. Do not justify. Do not correct every misinterpretation. Do not fall into the trap of constant communication. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The less you speak, the more powerful your words become when you finally choose to use them. Be slow to anger, slower to react, and fast only in your observation. Be cold in your analysis and merciless in your restraint. Start in the small moments, in daily conversations. When people expect your agreement, say nothing. When they bait you for compliments, stay silent. When they mock you, smile not kindly, but knowingly, as if they have absolutely no idea who they are truly trying to provoke. Nonchalance isn't about appearing strong. It's about not needing to appear strong at all. That is the ultimate dominance. When you are so in control that people sense a danger in your calm, they feel threatened by your stillness because it reveals nothing. They panic, guessing what you're thinking, how you'll strike, or if you even care. And that confusion, that uncertainty, it breaks them. You must also kill the need to explain yourself. This is critical. Explanations are for the insecure. You owe nothing to people who question your worth. If they do not understand you, let them remain confused. If they misunderstand you, let them believe the lie. If they talk behind your back, let them waste their breath. Your path is forward, not reactive. Let your results be your answer. Let your presence be your statement. And when you do speak, speak rarely, speak precisely, and speak with an air of finality. Understand this truth. Nonchalance wins the long-term wars. The loud, emotional types, they win moments, they win drama, they win sympathy. But you, if you can master silence, if you can endure being misjudged, if you can operate from a plane above emotion, you will win everything else. You will win control. You will win leverage. You will win a respect so deep it is the kind that makes people lower their eyes when you walk into a room, because you have trained yourself to rise above reaction. You have learned the sacred language of restraint. While they are screaming for attention, you have made stillness your home. While they are drowning in noise, you have found power in the void. That is the real advantage. That is the ultimate edge. And once you have it, you don't chase power, you attract it. So build your nonchalance, test it, hone it. Refuse to let the world dictate your state. Be cold, be calm, be calculated. And when the time comes to strike, do so without warning, with the full, devastating force of the power you have built in silence. A king does not explain his decisions. A lion does not roar to prove he is dangerous. And the truly powerful do not need to speak to be obeyed. They dominate through presence, through silence, through detachment. That is the hidden language of power, the kind that is unspoken yet undeniably felt. Nonchalance, at its highest form, isn't just about self-control. It becomes a method of control over others. In a room full of desperate people trying to be liked, trying to impress, trying to dominate with noise, the nonchalant man becomes the gravitational center. He says little, but everyone watches him. He offers no validation, and everyone seeks it. His disinterest makes others prove themselves. His lack of emotion makes people question their own. This is the secret to psychological dominance. When others begin adjusting their behavior around you without you lifting a finger, you have mastered the art. You don't chase validation, you withdraw it. You don't confront loudly, you observe silently. You don't fight every battle, you make others doubt whether they ever had the power to challenge you. Machiavelli wrote that it's safer to be feared than loved, but what he didn't need to spell out was this: fear doesn't always come from aggression, it comes from unpredictability. And there is nothing more unpredictable than the man who shows nothing, reveals nothing, and gives nothing away. Leaders who rule with noise burn out. Charisma fades. Fear based on shouting loses its sting. But the man who rules through nonchalance never lets the crowd get too close. He remains elevated, distant, and that distance builds a powerful mystique. People fear what they cannot read. They obsess over what they cannot predict. They respect what they cannot control. Think of the world's most ruthless power players. They don't beg, they don't rant. They remain calm in the middle of storms, and that calm unnerves everyone. Why? Because it signals something terrifying. This man has nothing to prove, and in the power games of life, the man with nothing to prove is the most dangerous of all. Nonchalance in leadership also prevents emotional hijacking. Weak leaders get baited into arguments. They try to please everyone. They collapse under criticism. But a detached leader, he knows most criticism is just noise. He understands that the masses are fickle. He's aware that panic spreads faster than truth, so he doesn't feed it. He sets the tone. He remains composed. He watches his enemies expose themselves with every unnecessary word they speak. This applies in every arena: business, politics, social dynamics. In negotiation, the calm man wins. In conflict, the patient man controls the tempo. In warfare, the silent general terrifies the enemy more than the one who threatens aloud. Nonchalance is not apathy. It is not laziness. It is a sharp-edged tool used to destabilize others. Your lack of reaction is not an absence. It is a calculated strike that leaves others uncertain, nervous, and off balance. They can't plan against you because they don't know what you want. They can't provoke you because you don't respond. They can't manipulate you because your silence gives them nothing to twist. That is how you become an immovable pillar, not by overpowering others, but by making yourself unreachable. Because the truth is, people are slaves to feedback loops. Praise and criticism control them like puppet strings. The nonchalant man cuts the strings. He exists outside the loop, and that makes him a threat to anyone who needs control. The world is built on noise, but noise dies when it is not echoed. A man who doesn't echo noise becomes a void, and people are terrified of voids because in them they are forced to confront themselves. So let them speak, let them scream, let them try to provoke you. You don't move, you don't flinch, you don't break character. You watch, you wait, you decide. And when you move, it's precise, final, and unquestionable. That's not emotionless, that's strategy in its purest form. If you have made it this far, understand something clearly. You are not like the rest. The masses chase validation. They cry to be understood. They dance for attention, bleed for approval, and shatter at the first sign of rejection. That is how they are ruled. That is why they are predictable. That is why they are weak. But if you have absorbed everything up to this point, then you are already beginning the shift from emotionally reactive to ruthlessly composed, from readable to unreadable, from prey to predator. This is the final evolution of power, total control over self. Because in the end, it is not about impressing anyone. It is not about being seen as powerful. It is about becoming so composed, so still, so strategically nonchalant that no one knows what's coming until it is far too late. Imagine walking into a room and saying nothing. Yet everyone turns toward you not because you demanded their attention, but because your silence commands it. That is nonchalance. That is fear disguised as respect. That is influence with no noise. This isn't a trick. This isn't a social game. This is the core of Machiavellian strength, to build such deep inner power that nothing on the outside moves you. You no longer react, you choose. And in choosing, you become godlike in a world full of desperate men begging for scraps of attention. You must cut off emotional dependency at the root. Starve the need to defend your reputation. Detach from the outcome. Kill the voice inside you that still wants to be liked, understood, or approved of. That voice is your enemy. And when it dies, something new takes its place. Silence becomes your armor. Stillness becomes your sharpest blade. Detachment becomes your fortress. You walk through chaos like a shadow, untouched. You become what the weak can't understand and what the powerful can't ignore. In this world, people think noise equals strength. They are wrong. Noise is a confession. Rage is a confession. Desperation is a confession. Every outburst is a signal that says, I am not in control. You, on the other hand, you speak only when it's lethal. You move only when it's final. You never chase. You never beg. You never explain. And that terrifies them. That is why nonchalance is the final form of control, because the man who can sit calmly in the storm is the storm. This philosophy isn't for everyone. Most will continue chasing applause. Most will sell their soul for attention. Most will scream when silence would have made them feared. But not you. You will remain quiet, detached, unreadable. And in doing so, you will rise. You will walk away from manipulation. You will kill the inner noise. You will develop a stillness so deep, it rattles others without a word. That is how you become untouchable. That is how you become legend. And if you want to keep sharpening that edge, keep building the darker side of power and control, subscribe. Not because I asked you to, but because you chose to align with this mindset. Because you recognize the game, and you're done playing it by their rules. Like this video, if you have already started killing your reactions. If silence is becoming your weapon, if you're not just watching power, you're becoming it. The world belongs to those who act like they don't need it.